Talk with a lot of CEOs and founders about time to value. That's obviously what everyone is concerned with, especially when they're talking about spending the money and time to go through a messaging engagement. They want to know exactly how long it's going to take for their team to start benefiting from the work. There's not a perfect answer, obviously, but I think what makes time to value easier when you work with me is the fact that I help teams go through the activation piece of a messaging engagement. Why? Because I think activation is hard and I would like to be there to help the team orchestrate what it looks like. And so when I talk to founders and CEOs about time to value, we focus a lot on what we're actually going to do to help equip the sales team with the new messaging and positioning that we've developed, with a new strategy that we've put in place. So I want to talk about 6 things that typically happen at the end of a messaging engagement that help make time to value quicker. So number 1 is we have to work on prepping the training materials for sellers. It's not enough to put the strategy in place, which is often like a 20 to 30 page document that compiles everything from the process in one place. That's not super helpful for salespeople, so we need to work on developing training materials that are more accessible and easier to digest for the team. So we might break things into different documents, we might break things into different spreadsheets, different online resources that we can direct them to at different moments during the training process. That's number 1. Number 2 is we need to build the enablement assets. It's one thing to have the strategy for messaging, it's another thing to put that messaging into practice in sales materials. So I spend a lot of time working with companies on building new proposal decks, new capabilities decks, discovery decks, one-pagers, sometimes landing pages, to make sure that they're not having to take the messaging and build their own assets after the process. We're delivering exactly what they need. Number 3 is we need to plan an actual training session. And I know this is really hard for the executive team. It can be really hard for the sales team to have to slow down, especially when you're in the middle of a quarter or near the end of the month, to stop what you're doing, stop everyone's focus and turn it to messaging training. But it's super important, you have to do it. So we work together to build a training session where we bring everybody in the same room, and I would recommend doing this in person. If they're not all located in the same place, they will fly the team in so that everyone can be there receiving the same training in the same way at the same moment in time. It's important for the team to understand the process that you went through to develop the new messaging and positioning, especially for those sellers that feel like they already have a good handle on how to communicate value to their prospects. We need them to come along, accept and adopt the new messaging, understand how much work has gone into putting the new messaging strategy in place, and we also need to help them understand how do they apply this in the conversations that they're having, what tools are we giving them. So this can be a really rich session. It's a great way to build additional culture with your team, have everyone come together, align, plan some additional sessions outside of the messaging need, and make it a day that the team can get together and really align on what needs to happen in order to move forward. As part of that training process, you should also be designing and deploying what I call a pitch certification process. So what this is you're asking your sellers to take all the materials that you put together, take the new messaging, take the new enablement assets, and apply them to a mock pitch, essentially. So you give them a specific persona, an ICP, a buyer that you know that they're going to be focused on in their day-to-day roles, and you ask them to actually give a pitch using the new messaging materials. One of my most recent clients is going through this process right now with their sellers, and they're making it fun. They're doing pitch videos, so their team obviously is not all located in the same place. They brought everyone together the day of to train them on new messaging, positioning, talk about the pitch certification process. Everybody left, they gave them time to review materials, and then every salesperson had to send in a video that was essentially their pitch using the new value propositions, the new narrative, the new positioning. They were each assigned a different persona, a different type of buyer to perform the pitch for, and then they sent it to the team. It's a contest. Whoever wins the pitch certification process gets a prize, and then the CEO actually himself is going to participate in this pitch certification process too. So he's going to do a video too to just show the salespeople that it's not just them. Everybody at the organization has to be completely bought in on this new way of communicating, and so I think it can be a great exercise for your team, and I definitely recommend doing it at the end of a process like this. So after you get through all that, it's important to come back together as a team. I think you should be regrouping with your sellers, with your marketing people, every other week at least for the next couple quarters, just to make sure that you're continuing to strengthen people's understanding of value propositions, of the new messaging and positioning. You want to be learning from people. You want to be asking, how are pitches going? How are conversations going with these new materials? What needs to be refined? What needs to be fixed? And messaging, it's an ongoing process. It's never done when the strategy is delivered, at least with the clients that I work with. It's ongoing. You have to be continuing to work on it, make it better, learn from the people that are actually using messaging in the field, right? So those are the 6 tips that I have for you to make time to value faster when you go through a messaging engagement. If you have any questions on any of these topics that I mentioned, let me know in the comments or send me a message. Happy to talk more with you and share more examples. All right, have a good day.